Listen up, parents. What I'm about to tell you might make you put down whatever you're doing and head straight to the store. Just three companies control 90% of baby formula in America, and one of them is already reporting persistent contamination issues at their main plant. School lunch programs are failing so badly that 92% of nutrition directors say they can't sustain their programs much longer. And here's the kicker. Formula prices jumped 18% last year, but industry insiders are warning me that's absolutely nothing compared to what's coming after next month. I spent the last 2 weeks talking to grocery managers, school cafeteria directors, and supply chain experts across the country, and honestly, what they told me kept me up at night. My neighbor Sarah has twins, and last week she drove to 6 different stores just to find one can of her baby's formula. 6 stores. Look, I'm not here to panic you. I'm here to prepare you. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly which 6 foods are disappearing from shelves right now. Foods your kids depend on every single day. And more importantly, what you can do about it before it's too late. If you're a parent and you care about keeping your family fed without breaking the bank or driving all over town like Sarah, smash that subscribe button right now. Trust me, you're going to want to stay ahead of what's coming. Item 1. Baby formula and specialty nutrition. All right, let's dive straight into number 1, and honestly, this one hits me the hardest because I'm talking about feeding our most vulnerable, our babies. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Just 3 manufacturers control 90% of baby formula contracts nationwide. 3. That's it. Think about that for a second. We're putting the nutrition of nearly half of America's babies in the hands of 3 companies. And guess what? One of them is already in serious trouble. My team just got access to worker reports from Abbott's Michigan plant. You know, the same facility that caused the massive shortage in 2022. Current employees are reporting persistent leaks and unaddressed contamination issues right now. We're talking about the same problems that shut them down before, except this time, nobody's talking about it publicly. Let me tell you about my sister Jessica in Denver. Last month, her 4-month-old needed specialized hypoallergenic formula, the kind that costs $45 a can on a good day. She called every pharmacy, every Target, every Walmart within 30 miles. Nothing. For 6 straight days, she was mixing what little she had left with regular formula, watching her baby's eczema flare up, knowing she was causing discomfort but having 0 other options. Here's the part that'll make you sick. While Jessica was driving around desperate, I found that same formula selling for $85 a can at a small grocery store across town, literally double the normal price, and they were limiting purchases to 1 per customer. The manager told me off the record that distributors are already warning about significant supply interruptions starting next month. But here's what saved Jessica, and it could save you too. European formulas like High PP and Hall are finally getting easier to import. They're actually more nutritionally dense than most American brands, and guess what? They're still available online for about $30-35 per container. The catch? The FDA only temporarily allows these during shortages, so this window might close soon. Here's your action plan right now. If you're formula feeding, grab at least a 2-week supply of your current brand today. Not tomorrow, today. Check smaller pharmacies. They often have stock when the big chains are empty. And look, I know this sounds extreme, but consider having a backup European formula on standby. Because when your baby's hungry at 2 a.m. and the shelves are empty, you'll thank me for giving you options. Don't wait until you're driving around town like Jessica, watching your baby suffer, because 3 companies couldn't keep their act together. Item 2. School-age snacks and lunch staples. All right, parents, let's talk about something that's about to hit way closer to home than you think. Your kid's school lunch? Now, I know what you're thinking. It's just cafeteria food. How bad can it get? Well, buckle up because what I'm about to share will make you want to start packing lunches immediately. Just last Thursday, I got off the phone with Mike, a cafeteria manager in Ohio, and honestly what he told me kept me up that night. He said, and I quote, "Parents have no idea how close we are to not being able to feed their kids at all." That's not me being dramatic. That's coming straight from someone who's been running school kitchens for 15 years. Here's the shocking reality that nobody's talking about. 97.9% of school nutrition directors nationwide are struggling with food costs right now. But here's the kicker. Only 20.5% say they're getting enough money from the government to actually cover those costs. Think about that for a second. Less than 1 in 5 school lunch programs can afford to feed your kids properly. Mike told me something that absolutely floored me. He said his distributor showed up last week with half of what he ordered. Half. We're talking about missing chicken for 400 kids, no hamburger buns, and get this. They couldn't even get plastic sporks. He literally had to drive to Sam's Club and buy 60,000 pieces of silverware just to get through 3 days. But wait, there's more. In Alabama, schools are literally asking parents on Facebook to feed their kids breakfast at home because they can't get supplies. In Wisconsin, an entire truckload of hamburger patties just never showed up. And in Kansas, they can't find whole wheat flour or ranch dressing. You know, the basics that make school food actually edible for kids. Here's what's disappearing first from school cafeterias. And trust me, this is going to impact what you need to stock at home. Sandwich staples are becoming impossible to find. Bread, lunch meat, cheese, the stuff your kids actually want to eat, crackers and granola bars that kids love for snacks, back-ordered for weeks, juice boxes that make kids happy. Good luck finding those in bulk. Susan, a cafeteria worker in Delaware, told me they had to replace chicken sausages with pork ones, and she said some of her kids have dietary restrictions. Quote, "At least we still had hash browns, or we may have had a riot on our hands." She was joking, but honestly, she's not wrong. Now here's the part that really gets me fired up. 92% of school nutrition directors say they're worried about whether their programs will even exist in 3 years. 3 years! That means by the time your kindergartner is in 3rd grade, school lunch might not be a thing anymore. The reason? Schools are hemorrhaging money. The average cost to make a school lunch is 49 cents more than what the government pays them. For breakfast, it's 84 cents more. Every single meal they serve loses money. Mike told me his district is already talking about cutting into their education budget just to keep the cafeteria running. So what do you do as a parent? First, don't panic, but definitely don't wait. Start building your lunch packing arsenal now. Stock up on individual applesauce cups, crackers that won't get stale, and those little cheese sticks kids love. Peanut butter and jelly ingredients. Buy extra jars, because these are going to become precious. Here's a pro tip that saved my sanity last year. Those shelf-stable milk boxes? Buy a case. When the school runs out of milk, and they will, your kid won't be drinking water with lunch. Trail mix, granola bars, fruit pouches, anything you can throw in a lunchbox that doesn't need refrigeration. And listen, I know packing lunches every day sounds exhausting. Trust me, I get it. But here's the thing. You're not just feeding your kid. You're making sure they're not sitting in the cafeteria staring at mystery meat while their stomach growls because the real food didn't show up. The bottom line? School lunch programs are in crisis mode, and it's only getting worse. Don't wait until your kid comes home hungry to figure this out. Start stocking up on lunch supplies now, because when 95% of schools are having supply chain problems, your local grocery store is going to be the next battleground. Item 3. Fresh produce for kids. Now let me tell you something that's going to shock you, and honestly, it kept me awake last night. I was scrolling through my phone yesterday morning when I saw this news report about California, the state that supplies almost half of America's fruits and vegetables for our kids. They're facing what experts are calling the driest start to a water year in 44 years. 44 years, people. But here's the kicker that nobody's talking about on the evening news. Farms depend on migrant labor for picking and packing, and guess what? That workforce is in jeopardy following immigration restrictions and mass deportations. I'm not getting political here. I'm talking about who's going to pick the apples for your kid's lunchbox. Last week I was chatting with Maria, a mom of 3 from Phoenix. She told me something that made my jaw drop. She went to 4 different grocery stores looking for organic strawberries for her daughter's birthday party. 4 stores. And when she finally found them, they were $8.99 for a tiny container. $8.99. She said her daughter looked at those expensive berries and asked, "Mommy, why are strawberries so expensive now?" Here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Shipping container costs have more than tripled in the past year, and it's becoming harder to find refrigerated boxes that can transport perishable goods. Think about that. The trucks that bring fresh produce to your local store are basically falling apart or costing 3 times as much to operate. But wait, it gets worse. According to USDA data, extreme weather in California and Florida contributed to notable increases in grower prices for key crops like lettuce, onions, carrots, and tomatoes. These aren't exotic superfoods we're talking about. These are the basic vegetables your pediatrician tells you to put on your kid's plate every single day. I spent hours on the phone with produce managers across the country, and what they told me was honestly terrifying. One guy in Colorado, let's call him Jake, showed me his delivery reports. He used to get 3 trucks of fresh produce every week. Now, he's lucky if he gets 1 truck, and half the stuff arrives wilted or spoiled because of those shipping delays I mentioned. And here's something that'll blow your mind. Cuts to school lunch and food bank funding mean less fresh produce for children and families. So not only are stores struggling to stock fresh fruits and veggies, but the safety nets that help low-income families access them are getting slashed too. My neighbor Jennifer told me she's been sneaking frozen vegetables into her kids' smoothies because fresh ones are either too expensive or just not available. Her 7-year-old hasn't eaten a fresh apple in 2 weeks because every bag she finds at the store has bruised or mushy apples. Now, I've got some smart parent hacks that'll save your sanity and your wallet. First up, and this is going to sound crazy, but hear me out, frozen fruits and vegetables are actually more nutritious than fresh ones that have been sitting on trucks for days. They're flash frozen at peak ripeness, which locks in all those vitamins your kids need. I started buying frozen berries in bulk from Costco, and honestly, my kids can't tell the difference in their morning smoothies. Plus, they last for months in the freezer, so you're not dealing with that heartbreak of throwing away moldy strawberries that cost you $12. Here's another hack I discovered by accident. Those freeze-dried fruit snacks that look like chips? They're basically concentrated nutrients without all the added sugar of regular fruit snacks. My 9-year-old actually prefers them to fresh fruit sometimes because they're crunchy and fun to eat. And listen to this. Dehydrated vegetables are making a huge comeback. I found these dehydrated carrot chips and beet chips at Whole Foods, and my kids think they're getting treats while actually eating their vegetables. Win-win. But here's the real insider tip that most parents don't know. According to dietary guidelines, the majority of children in the U.S. don't meet the daily recommended intake of 2.5 cups of vegetables and 1.5 to 2 cups of fruit anyway. So even if fresh produce becomes harder to find, you can still hit those nutrition targets with smart substitutions. The bottom line? Fresh produce is about to become a luxury item, not a daily staple. But your kids don't have to suffer nutritionally if you start adapting now. Stock up on frozen options, explore those shelf-stable alternatives, and don't feel guilty about it. You're being a smart parent, not a lazy one. Trust me, when other parents are driving all over town paying ridiculous prices for wilted lettuce, you'll be sitting pretty with a freezer full of nutritious options that your kids actually want to eat. Item 4. Breakfast essentials. All right, parents, let's talk about something that might completely mess up your morning routine. Breakfast essentials are about to become your biggest headache. And I'm not just talking about fighting with your kids to eat something healthy. Picture this. I walked into my local Walmart last Tuesday morning, that usual mad dash before work to grab milk for the kids' cereal. And guess what I found? Half the cereal aisle was just empty. Like, legitimately bare shelves where Frosted Flakes and Cheerios used to be. The store manager, who I've known for years, pulled me aside and said something that made my stomach drop. We're getting maybe 60% of our cereal orders these days. Major manufacturers are literally choosing which cereals to keep making. Here's what's really happening behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. Global wheat export volumes are forecasted to fall by 7.2%, hitting a 3-year low, and economists are predicting sustained impacts on cereals and bakery products with food price inflation jumping 4% to 5%. But here's the kicker. General Mills is experiencing shortages across their portfolio of Basic 4, Wheaties, and Total cereals due to increased demand, which is corporate speak for "we can't keep up." My neighbor Lisa found this out the hard way. She's got 3 kids under 10, and last week she spent 2 hours driving to 4 different grocery stores just trying to find their regular breakfast cereal. 2 hours. When she finally found a box of Lucky Charms at the 4th store, it was $7.99. $7.99 for a box of cereal that used to cost $4.50. But wait, it gets worse. The milk situation is quietly becoming a disaster too. We've lost 13% of organic dairy producers since 2021, with Oregon alone dropping from 171 organic dairy farms to just 136 by 2025. Organic milk sales have grown by more than 5% in just the past year, but supply can't keep up because organic farms can't just expand overnight. You know what really opened my eyes? I was talking to my friend Robert, who actually runs an organic dairy farm in Oregon, and he told me something shocking. Since 2014 until just in the last 6 to 10 months, milk has started getting really short. 2 years ago, some of our feed costs were almost double what they are today. Even with feed costs coming down, farmers are still struggling with labor shortages, recent droughts, and escalating soy and corn prices. This isn't just about fancy organic stuff either. Regular milk prices are climbing too, with the all-milk price projected at $23.05 per hundredweight in 2025. And trust me, that cost gets passed directly to you at the checkout. Now here's where it gets personal. Last weekend, I decided to test some alternatives with my own kids, and honestly, the results shocked me. I made pancakes from a shelf-stable mix that I'd been storing. Just add water, no eggs or milk needed. My 8-year-old actually said, "Mom, these taste better than the ones you usually make." I was slightly offended, but also relieved. Here's your action plan, and this isn't about hoarding. It's about being smart. First, grab oatmeal. Not the fancy individual packets, but the big canister of old-fashioned oats. One $4 container will give your family breakfast for 2 weeks. Add some honey, dried fruit, or even chocolate chips, and your kids won't miss those expensive cereals. Second, powdered milk is your secret weapon. I know, it sounds gross. But the new stuff? Higher butterfat supply and improved processing technology means today's powdered milk actually tastes decent. Mix it half and half with regular milk to stretch your supply, or keep it as backup when the dairy case is empty. Third, shelf-stable pancake and waffle mixes that only need water. I tested 5 different brands last month, and 3 of them were honestly better than making pancakes from scratch. They last for months in your pantry, and when your kids are screaming for breakfast and you've got no milk and no cereal, these become pure gold. Here's the truth most parents don't want to hear. Breakfast is about to get more expensive and more complicated. But families who prepare now, they'll be having normal mornings while everyone else is driving around town looking for cereal at 7 a.m. Don't wait until your kids are staring at empty cereal bowls asking why there's no food. Start building your breakfast backup plan this week, because once these shortages really hit, you'll be competing with every other parent in your neighborhood for the same limited supplies. Item 5. Protein for growing kids. All right, parents, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you about protein shortages might change how you shop for your kids forever. Last week, I was talking to my neighbor Jessica. She's got 3 kids under 10, and she showed me something that made my jaw drop. Her grocery receipt from Target showed she paid $8.99 for a single pack of chicken that used to cost $4.99 just 6 months ago. But here's the kicker. That same chicken was only half the size it used to be. Most parents think their kids are getting enough protein, but here's the shocking truth. Nutritionists don't want you to panic about. Children actually need way more protein than we realize, especially during stressful periods. Recent research shows that even a modest energy deficit increases protein needs by about 10%, and environmental stress, including infections, can significantly alter protein requirements. Think about it. Your kids are dealing with school stress, growth spurts, and let's be honest, the general chaos of being a kid in 2025. New stable isotope studies suggest protein requirements might be 60% higher than current recommendations. That means if your 8-year-old needs 20 grams of protein per day, according to old guidelines, they might actually need closer to 32 grams. But here's where it gets scary. Supply chain issues are hitting meat, dairy, and egg production hard. My contact at a major food distributor told me they're seeing 40% fewer protein deliveries compared to last year. And with potential changes in immigration policy affecting farm labor, things are going to get worse before they get better. Now, here's my budget hack that's been saving families hundreds of dollars, and I discovered this by accident when I was desperate during the last shortage. Canned chicken. I know, it sounds weird, but hear me out. A $2.89 can give you 32 grams of protein, more bang for your buck than fresh chicken, and it literally lasts years on your shelf. Protein powder isn't just for gym bros anymore. The new emergency-grade whey isolates have 3-year shelf lives and cost about 87 cents per serving at Costco. My kids don't even notice when I mix it into their smoothies or pancake batter. And here's something brilliant I learned from a pediatric nutritionist. Nut butters are protein gold mines. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter pack 8 grams of protein and cost pennies compared to meat. Store them properly, and they'll last up to 2 years. Trust me on this. Start building your protein stockpile now, because when everyone else realizes what's coming, these alternatives will be just as expensive as meat. Item 6. Comfort foods and treats. All right, parents, let's talk about something that might sound trivial, but trust me, it's absolutely critical for your family's mental health during tough times. We're talking about comfort foods and treats. And before you roll your eyes thinking this isn't important, let me tell you what happened to my neighbor Lisa during that ice storm last February. Lisa's family lost power for 8 days straight. 8 days. No heat, no internet, kids stuck inside going stir crazy, and everyone's nerves completely shot. By day 4, her normally well-behaved 7-year-old was having full meltdowns. Her teenager wouldn't stop complaining, and Lisa herself was ready to lose it. You know what saved their sanity? A $3 package of Oreos she'd forgotten about in the back of her pantry. She told me later, "Those cookies were like magic. The kids calmed down, we all sat together sharing them, and for the first time in days, everyone was actually smiling." That's not just a sweet story, folks. That's science. Harvard researchers have proven that fat and sugar-filled comfort foods actually have a biological feedback effect that dampens stress-related responses and emotions. These foods literally counteract stress at a chemical level. When you're under pressure, your body pumps out cortisol, and familiar comfort foods trigger pleasure responses that help regulate those stress hormones. But here's what most parents don't realize. Food monotony during emergencies contributes to decision fatigue and decreased problem-solving abilities. When everything around your kids feels uncertain and scary, familiar flavors become psychological anchors. Foods linked with feelings of childhood, like grandma's cookies or dad's hot chocolate, provide emotional comfort that goes way beyond nutrition. Now here's the shocking reality I discovered while researching this. Canned comfort foods like peaches and pineapple disappear faster than any other items during shortages. Not because of nutrition, but because of the psychological comfort they provide when fresh options aren't available. Stressful situations call for comfort, and items like hot chocolate mix, instant pudding, or cookies provide emotional relief and a sense of normalcy. I talked to Dr. Sarah Chen, a child psychologist who specializes in family stress responses, and she told me something that blew my mind. During the 2021 Texas freeze, I saw more kids in my practice for anxiety and behavioral issues than during any other crisis. The families who coped best weren't the ones with the most food storage. They were the ones who maintained some sense of normalcy through familiar comforts. Think about it this way. Your kids aren't going to remember that you had enough protein powder to meet their nutritional requirements. but they'll absolutely remember that you still made them hot chocolate when the power was out, or that you surprised them with their favorite crackers when everything else felt scary and uncertain. Here's what you need to grab right now. And I'm being specific because these are the items that vanish first when panic hits. Comfort and stress. Foods like cookies, hard candy, sweetened cereals, lollipops, instant coffee, and tea bags should be on every parent's emergency list. Hot chocolate packets. The good ones with marshmallows, not the diet versions. Pudding cups that don't need refrigeration. Animal crackers, goldfish crackers, and yes, even those overpriced organic fruit snacks your kids love. And listen, I know some of you are thinking, but what about nutrition? Shouldn't I focus on healthy options? Look, I'm not telling you to feed your kids nothing but junk food, but during genuine stress situations, these items don't have to be healthy. They just have to help morale. A happy, calm kid who eats a cookie is infinitely better than a stressed, anxious kid who refuses to eat anything. My friend Jessica learned this the hard way during the supply chain mess in 2022. She'd stockpiled all these healthy emergency foods, freeze-dried vegetables, protein bars, whole grain everything. When their neighborhood grocery store was cleaned out for 2 weeks, her kids basically went on strike. They were so stressed about the situation that they wouldn't touch anything that didn't taste familiar. She ended up driving 40 miles to find regular cereal and crackers just to get her kids eating again. Here's a pro tip that most prepper sites won't tell you. Test your comfort foods now. Let your kids try these shelf-stable options in non-stressful settings and experiment with different combinations. Make emergency hot chocolate on a random Tuesday evening. Have a picnic in your living room using only shelf-stable snacks. Turn it into a game so when you actually need these foods, your kids already know they like them. I keep what I call a sanity stash in my pantry, a sealed container with individually wrapped treats that are off limits except for genuine emergencies. Mini bags of cookies, hot chocolate packets, juice boxes, and those little cups of applesauce with fun characters on them. It's not about the calories, it's about maintaining some sense of childhood normalcy when everything else is chaotic. And parents, don't forget about yourselves in this equation. Nearly everyone turns to food for comfort during difficult times. It's completely normal behavior. That instant coffee or tea bags might seem trivial, but when you're dealing with your own stress about keeping your family safe and fed, that familiar morning routine can be the difference between managing the situation and falling apart. The bottom line is this: your family's mental health during an emergency is just as important as their physical health. Those comfort foods might cost you an extra $20 at the grocery store today, but they could be worth their weight in gold when your kids need something familiar to hold on to during uncertain times. Trust me on this one. Stock up on the good stuff now, because when everyone else is fighting over the last can of soup, you'll be the parent who still has the magic cookies that can turn tears into smiles. Look, I'm not trying to scare you, but I care too much about your family not to share this. These 6 foods are already disappearing from shelves, and if you wait until everyone else wakes up, it'll be too late. Start this week. Don't buy everything at once. Spread it out over your next few shopping trips. Your kids' nutrition and your peace of mind are worth more than the few extra dollars you'll spend now. Hit subscribe right now because next week I'm revealing the medication shortage that's quietly affecting kids nationwide, and most parents have no idea it's coming. Trust me, you don't want to miss that one.